Man, your hair, the
No,
soul
don't.
patch. No,
Don't.
stop. I know I say it all the time, man. But dude, this is coming from a guy who doesn't have hair. I mean, like I'm not like what's the word? I'm not jealous, I'm not envious. I'm just appreciating it. And it's just awesome, dude.
Yeah,
To have that kind of hair and then the soul patch and then it's all white. It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
well, thank you, Keith. That's high praise. I really appreciate it. But I would prefer to have a non-sagging chin.
We all want something.
We all want something, man.
Man, so I thought we'd get right to it, man. And as you know, the Phoenix Suns here in Arizona are red hot, and we're hoping that they can go ahead and seal the deal with the 2 more wins in this series for the NBA championship. But they're just a resilient team, well coached all the way around. So I thought we'd do a little something about the Suns. Is that okay?
Yeah, great.
Okay, so the star, for people that don't follow basketball, the star of the team, or one of the stars, is this young athlete named Devin Booker. And he is just as kind off the court as he seems to be with his teammates and other people, and respectful on the court. So they went through his first, I think, 5 years in the league, 4 or 5 years in the league. The Suns' record was a losing one. And we are living in a day and age, and that's this particular sport, in which athletes, when they're on a losing team, some of them have chosen to leave that team and go to where their chances of winning are more likely. And so Devin Booker's father's name is Melvin, and he had some advice for Devin when last year the Suns were red hot. And they went on an 8-0 run to try to get into the playoffs. And Devin Booker, really, his star was on the rise. And he put the league on notice that he was a young talent that was going to be a force to be reckoned with. And so another player from another team kind of voiced his opinion on social media, telling, implying that Devin Booker should get out of Phoenix and go join a winner. And to this, Melvin, who played professional basketball himself, gave Devin some advice. And he said to Devin, he says, find the value in losing. You will learn a lot in this losing. These careers are now 18 years long, so you haven't even gotten to the climb of it yet. Again, you will learn a lot in losing. Now, once you taste winning, you don't want to go back to the way it was. And so, Rick, I thought we'd kick it off with that. And the title of this podcast is Not Going Back to the Way It Was. And for me, once I've experienced some peacefulness, some joy, a reduction in suffering, dude, there's no going back. So I thought you'd kick it off for us and just kind of share what this means to you.
Well, that's a great story with Melvin. What a great piece of advice from a loving father to his son, who probably could have made a stink and tried to go to another team. That's probably what we're going to see more of with professional sports, where the star quality of a particular player is what everyone wants to pay for. So it was a wonderful thing to hear that story. I liked it a lot. And I think there are 2 things that I'd like to say about it. One is that it's a cliche, but it's very true. And that is that you really don't understand the fullness and richness of life and your ability to handle adversity until you've experienced a serious loss. And I'm not talking about just having to pay more income tax, or maybe having to endure a setback at your job where you weren't promoted. I'm talking about something that's a serious, serious hit, something like an illness or a breakup of a relationship. Those are things that always carry within us lessons, offer to us lessons. And I think when we learn those lessons, it's very difficult to put the wine back in the bottle. Someone said that there's nothing more powerful than a new idea whose time has come. And so what I try to do is in my own life is, when I have setbacks, and I have a lot, I just failed on a big case this week. And when I have setbacks, I try to figure out what the hidden message is, instead of trying to blame other people or even blame myself for things I couldn't do. And as I've done this over the years now, 40 years of doing this, it's almost automatic. And like you, I don't have that same kind of suffering like I used to have years ago. I'm much, much, much more efficient in gaining the lesson out of what happened. And the lesson is usually something to do with your own humility, your own limitations as a human being, your own, your own function in a multifunctional world, in a multi-layered world, and we play such a little part in that we can't continue to expect ourselves to always be completely winning. And last point is, I think winning is kind of an arbitrary idea. Is it winning if you make a lot of money and you're respected and known worldwide? Or is it winning when you give your best, like Devin does, and score 70 points and the team doesn't do very well that year? Isn't that also a kind of winning? You know, you have to distinguish between what the culture values as winning and what we all should value as winning within us. And that's something everyone needs to decide for themselves. Don't you think?
Oh, I do, Rick. I couldn't agree with you more, man. I look at my life and I've gone on some losing streaks. And some of them were self-inflicted with some of my choices and, not having the tools or the ability to overcome my ego and my default settings. I just wasn't there yet, and I had examples of people that were, but I wasn't. And I look at like Keith, I call it Keith 2.0 versus Keith 1.0. But the Keith 1.0 man was just really at the mercy of his ego, and that showed up as complaining, judging others, not being satisfied, a perfectionist, just all those things. And Keith 2.0 is just, a servant who is committed to, grinding every day. When I say grinding, not in an effortful way, like I'm like, this is so hard, but just being really diligent and doing the things and seeing the opportunities in life that that can help me grow. Like, so I'm always on the lookout for those things. And so that, Keith, is 2.0 is really looks at these losing streaks as an opportunity to expand my capacity to be accepting, to be loving, to be kind, and all of that. And the greatest teacher has been, in addition to you and some of our great friends and some of the books that we've read, has been my suffering, man. My suffering during those losing streaks. And a lot of times I was just so, anxious and obsessed with what's the word I'm looking for short circuiting or pulling the plug on the suffering or the losing, by avoiding it, by ignoring it, by being distracted by something else, instead of really just walking through that suffering, through that valley. I had a hard time walking through the valley, but you don't grow unless you walk through that valley. I mean, you can go somewhere else where the load is light, but you never develop, that strong back to endure it. The easy way out is to go join, quote unquote, a winner. The tough work, the work that's going to pay dividends down the road, is when you take on and choose situations that offer you an opportunity to deepen your capacity in these areas that we talked about for loving and kind and stuff like that. That's it. When people show up and they're difficult, in those instances, you can accept them just like they are. You may prefer for them to behave differently, but that's not what they're doing in that moment. Or situations that are not to your liking, or you find people that aren't cooperative or they aren't listening. Even there, there's a lesson to take and to grow from as you work to improve the situation. So, I mean, and that's what I look at Devin Booker and those young sons and the organization. What they've done is that they had a plan, man. They had a plan. They knew it wasn't going to be a quick fix. Things that last are long lasting. History has shown us that quick fixes don't do it. You got to endure it, and along the way, you get stronger. So that story just really resonated with me as a former athlete, but more than that, as a person who was just really trying to keep my little storefront stoop clean without looking at what the neighbors are doing and complaining about them. I'm just trying to keep my little spot clean with my little broom, Rick. I'm just out here just cleaning my windows. That's all I'm doing, is cleaning my windows. And for a guy like that, man, you know, I've been on this growth trajectory, and it's just beautiful. You know, being in that space of suffering and being with it and climbing out of it through the practice has really created this opening where there's so much joy, man, that I experience now that I didn't before.
Well, and that's the theme of the show. It's really tougher to go back, right? I mean, you can't go back to Keith 1.0 and feel good about it, right? No. But you know, I think the folks need to understand too that the practice doesn't mean that you kind of get to a point where you can just stop it. The practice is the practice, meaning that you do it every day. It's not like okay, I've achieved enlightenment or I've achieved this outlook on life and I can just rest with it. You're still going to get hit with the same crap that you got hit with when you were Keith 1.0, but now you have different coping mechanisms. So when these things happen, you hardly spend any time wallowing in the crap. You know, you're pretty much in and out because you don't go back to Keith 1.0.
Exactly, what you said it. I mean, that is the biggest difference now. I mean, all these things still happen with the practice, though. Most of them, I don't even notice them happening anymore.
Yeah, that's right. You don't even notice because you were so easily offended before. Your ego was always bitching about something.
Oh my God, man! It's like the people that I see. I mean, and they're the same. I mean, they're still 1.0. they're still 1.0. So I'm not judging them. I'm just observing. They're still 1.0, but their 1.0 is not an offense to me. I'm like, okay. Enjoy being 1.0. Rick, as we said before, that's one way to do it.
One way to do it. Yeah, man. But I'm not going back, man. I'm not going to join you. No, you know, that's yeah. The Gin Blossoms had a tune about that. About I'll follow you everywhere, but not that far. I think it's about suicide. I think it's about somebody in their lives that committed suicide, and the guy was saying the lyric, I love you and I'll follow you, but man, I'm not doing that. That's kind of like how it is for us, I think, when we get to a point where the practice works. It brings you so much joy and inner peace and a way of looking at life that's less stressful and without suffering, that you don't want to go back to complaining. You don't want to go back to finding fault. You don't want to go back to judging people or yourself. That's history. You learned your lessons. Now it's time to apply it.
Exactly, Rick. I mean, I look back on that time, man, and the time is going to pass regardless. And to not even be present for that time in my life, which I wasn't, because I was just suffering the whole time. I was suffering through the quote unquote wins, and I was definitely suffering during the losing. The difference is I'm sure if someone was looking at my life objectively, there are as many wins as there are losses, but I don't notice them, anymore. At least not like that. And in addition to that, there's a huge difference. I'm not creating a lot of that losing.
That's
Before, right. I blamed everybody else, but man, I was probably 80% culpable in a lot of those losses because of my behavior or my attitude or my reaction to situations. I mean, it could be trivial stuff, man. Like a canceled flight when you want to get home, it's just a canceled flight, but you can make it into a huge loss with your attitude or your reaction to it. The workplace decisions not going your way, they're just workplace decisions that didn't meet your expectations or your hopes. But your attitude toward those workplace decisions are what can transform it into more than that, into a loss. So that behavior for me has ceased. And that just creates an opening for peace, man. So that's all I got, Rick. You want to send us out on a good?
I think you said it so well and so wisely, Keith. You can't go back once you've found a taste of what it's like to let go of some of these crutches that we're used to having, which is judgment, the feeling that other people are in the way, that obstacles need to stop because you're special. All of that stuff you got to get over, or you're going to continue to suffer. And you're not even noticing it. You're thinking these circumstances are causing you to suffer. And it's not that. It's your attitude toward the circumstances. And maybe what people could get a little bit of benefit from is just to maybe, when the next adverse circumstance comes up, that you say, you know, this time I'm going to do something different. I'm not going back to judging. I'm just observing that I'm outraged, and I'm going to just sit with that for a while, just explore it for a while. But I'm not going to have my usual reaction. Maybe that's the first step. The first step is actually monitoring, just being aware that you're the one who's acting out. You're the one who's incensed because the flight was canceled. And you're choosing to talk about how you're disrespected and how other people are getting benefits you're not, and what the hell's going on. This airline took all my dough and I'm still sitting here and I only have 2 days for vacation. You know, do the 15-page list of all the reasons why you're a victim. Skip it. You'll be happier.
Yeah, exactly, Rick. And you know, when you're in that, in that losing space, and that's what I call it when you are the one who's actually creating it for yourself and oftentimes for others, we act as if that's our only choice or option in terms of how we respond. And it's not. You have other choices, like, you know, whether it's like, you know, I got this issue with my friend, so I'm going to do what I've been doing. How's that working out? Oh, it's not. Like, yeah, you can keep doing that, but there's a different way, man. And it's you know, all this winning, man. I love all these wins, man.
So let's not go back. Let's continue to win in the sense of not always having victories, not always playing on a winning team, but let's not go back to bitching about it when we're not winning.
Exactly. Thanks, Rick. I love you, man.
I love you, Keith. Great show. I always learn so much listening to you. I love hearing you.
Likewise, man. Dropping knowledge.
Nah, it's cool. It's just cool. It's just nice to be with you.